Welcome back. You're with Business 360. Let's shift our focus to the India Philanthropy Report 2023, co-published by Dasra and Bain and Company. And I'll quickly run you through some of the highlights of the report this year before we get the authors to chime in. It says India still remains well short of the total annual funding required to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The public sector has been carrying the weight of the social sector spending in India, and it continues to do so, accounting for 95% of total spending. The report stresses it is the private sector that's lacking in spending on philanthropic activities. It says private sector philanthropy grew at a moderate pace of about 8% from FY17 through FY22. Private sector CSR spending grew at 13% in the last 5 years. Family philanthropy grew at 12% and retail giving rose by 17% over FY21 contributions from the ultra-high net worth individuals. That has seen a contraction of 5% despite a 9% increase in the cumulative wealth. The report suggests that ultra-high net worth individuals do need to increase their total contributions by 8 to 13 times higher to match counterparts in China, UK and the US. Well, to discuss the nuances of the Dasra Bain Philanthropy Report for 2023, we're joined by Neera, the co-founder of Philanthropy Foundation, and Jishnu, Batabyal, partner at Bain and Company. Neera and Jishnu, many thanks for joining us for our annual check-in to what's going on as far as the Indian philanthropic world is concerned. So, Neera, let me start by talking to you. Clearly, FY22 isn't a year that speaks in terms of good headlines. It's been a mixed picture. The 5-year performance, I just highlighted what we have seen in terms of growth. But what is concerning you at this point in time, Neera, as you look at these numbers and as you look at the generosity of the private sector when we talk about philanthropic activities?
I'd say the biggest concern is that it looks like our ultra high net worth, and affluent givers may not be really taking advantage of all the wealth creation that's happened this year. So they've gained riches on the back of, right coming out of COVID. So one would hope that their philanthropy will match. But I think it's a lag, to be honest, because if we look at our Giving Pie network, we're starting to speak to the network of 200 families that are actually telling us they can give more. They don't know where to give. They're underutilized by the end of the year. So there's a mismatch with where they want to give. And so there's a role for us to play to unlock it.
But Neera, isn't this the perpetual problem? I mean, even the last few times that we've had this conversation in the context of the philanthropy report, people say that they want to give more, but they don't know where and how to give. I mean, this seems to be a legacy issue that we don't seem to have moved the needle much on.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think it can be a bit frustrating. And so perhaps it's an excuse. What's exciting about this report, which I'm really glad you're highlighting, is we've double clicked into it. So it's not just sweeping a broad spectrum around who's rich. It's really speaking to how does ultra high net worth, how does high net worth and affluent givers, and they all give quite differently. And so I think just being able to cater and customize to that group's really important. That's different from CSR. That's different from how foreign funding comes in, and it's quite different from retail funding. So the more we actually put data out there, the more we understand how they give, I believe that that will help us accelerate.
Absolutely. So let's dive into the data a little bit more. And Jishnu, let me come to you. Again, we have seen the skew of funding in two sectors in specific, and that continues to be education and healthcare. And in education, disproportionately high impact by one individual, Azim Premji. And I'm looking at your numbers, 16,000 crores by Azim Premji in FY21 and FY22 or 21-22. Let's walk our viewers through what the data is telling us on where the money is coming in and where it's going.
Yeah, so if you look at the overall UHNI spending, it is kind of contracted from about 11,000 crores to 4,000 crores this year. But that's a little bit misleading because Mr. Azim Premji has actually enabled giving by enabling share buybacks, which have benefited the foundations directly, right? So if you kind of take that off from the base year as well as this year, the funding has actually come down by 5%. It was about 4,050 crores last year. It's about 3,800 crores this year. And that despite a 9% growth in the cumulative wealth of the HNI segment this year, right? So that's where it's coming from. It's coming from about 100, 110 top givers in the UHNI segment. In terms of where it is going towards, it's primarily still education and healthcare. Again, one must remember that this was also partly a COVID year, so giving towards healthcare and disaster relief was actually quite natural. However, having said that, what Neera was mentioning when we spoke to kind of the giving by cohort, and we're calling them the intergen and the now gen givers, essentially, they have actually broadened their horizon. And apart from education and healthcare, which they will continue to fund, they're looking at avenues such as climate change, gender equality, diversity and inclusion, arts and culture as well, in terms of other sectors to give. And not only that, it's also the models of giving are also kind of evolving. They want to give more collaboratively. They want to give towards building of philanthropic infrastructure, processes, and systems, which is actually quite heartening, despite the dip in numbers.
Absolutely. So that's the good news. That's the silver lining when you talk about changes as far as giving is concerned, including the way that the now Jenners and the intergenerational givers are choosing to give and the causes that they're choosing to champion. But Neera, let's talk about what's happening on the CSR front, because there is data there as well, and that continues to move at a steady clip. But what is sort of any surprise elements at all there as far as the CSR data is concerned? What gives you confidence and hope from that?
I think there's no real surprises besides that the concentration's being spread out, as in more companies are giving more. But there is a real opportunity that can there be greater collaboration? Can it not just only, just check the boxes on compliance? Can it be more strategic? I think there is some work to be done in CSR, that it's not just year to year. Can it be multi-year? Can it be not just near our factories, but can it go to states where there isn't enough funding? So you see a lot of concentration of this kind of work, in Maharashtra and the typical 4 or 5 states that our reports highlight. So just expanding that around India would probably be another piece.
Yeah, so the geographical mix, as you point out, we're seeing the concentration of CSR spends across a few states, whereas the states that perhaps require the money the most are not beneficiaries of the funding at this point in time. But Jishnu, coming back to you, foreign funding, and we've seen a dip there as well as far as numbers are concerned. Do you anticipate that that's likely to continue to be the trend?
I think over a 5-year period, that number has kind of stayed steady at about 15,000 crores. There has been a dip this year because of certain FCRA renewals, et cetera. We expect that to be kind of be at the same level. I think the mantle should be on Indian givers, both on the retail side as well as on the HNI, UHNI side, to kind of fund towards nation building, to fund towards the philanthropic activities in India. The role that foreign funders can play is they can actually bring in the best practices from other geographies and kind of help prove that model here.
Yeah.
And the models that succeed can potentially be picked up by the Indian philanthropist and then scaled up.
Right. Neera, I want to come back to, you said that hopefully there is a lag effect that will play itself out and the numbers will start to improve or look better in comparison to the data for FY22. But if there is a single message that you would like to send out to the family offices, to the ultra high net worth individuals, high net worth individuals, as well as retail, to encourage more retail participation in the sector, what is the message that you'd like to send out?
I'd love to say that we have to take responsibility for progress of our own nation and to take that philanthropy, take risk, and ultimately create some impact on lives. There needs to be a lot more equity in our country for all of us to progress together and thrive as a nation. So unlock it. There's lots of different places to give. That's an excuse. So come to Dasra and we'll help you unlock that. We can't only rely on foreign funding. So I think the importance of domestic philanthropy, especially as a middle-income country. If you look at our economic growth rate, we're all busy celebrating that growth. There has to be a way to bring everybody along.
Absolutely. Shared prosperity has to be the objective that each one of us as stakeholders moves forward with. Neera, Nundy, Jishnu, Batabyal, many thanks as always for joining us here to take us to the highlights of the India Philanthropy Report for 2023. Always a pleasure speaking with the two of you. We will take a break. There's a lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We're back in a minute with more on Business 360.